Hey everyone, good evening across Central Oregon on this Monday. We had a cold start, and then under sunshine, we had temperatures that topped out in the 50s with a couple of 40s left on the map, a few spots that got close to 60 degrees, and we are not done with this warming trend just yet. In fact, a little more warming is expected through Tuesday and Wednesday, and all of that with no precipitation in sight. Then we start to see a shift in our weather pattern later this week. Hey everyone, I am Darrell Winninger, Chief Meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News, and we're about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. Look at what's been happening across the high desert, what's going to happen through the next couple of days, and how a ridge of high pressure is just going to anchor itself over the Pacific Northwest for a little bit longer, keeping our weather pattern mostly calm. What this really means for us, how it's going to be impacting us, and what changes are on the way. So buckle up, it's going to be fun. Let's start off with what it looks like right here and right now across Central Oregon. It is a little hazy. We do have some gorgeous sunsets that are setting up, and just before 5 o'clock you can really start to see some of the colors that are going to be incorporated in tonight's show in the sky because of that sunset. And as of right now, there's no precipitation in sight. We do have a little bit of light cloud cover, and that is about it. A quick look at the snow report. And these numbers were taken about 2 p.m. If any change, maybe a little bit more melting through parts of the Cascades, but we pretty much just lost 1 to 2 inches. Lost 2 inches at Bachelor, putting it at 33 inches, so just below 3 feet. Hoodoo is right at 2 feet. Timberline and Meadows are also, look at that, in the 40-plus inch range. So nowhere near 4 feet, but actually looking pretty good up there. And as we go forward through the overnight hours, Tuesday's powder prognosis shows no new snow at all. Sunrise is at 7:38 a.m. and through the Cascades, we're looking at tons of sunshine, bluebird conditions at times, and a light breeze up there. Now, winds could get breezy at times even in our lower elevations, but look at these temperatures at elevation. At Bachelor, we're getting well into the 40s. Some spots could reach into the low 50s in the higher elevations, especially Hoodoo. Hoodoo is a little bit lower in elevation, and they're actually looking at temperatures climbing into the 50s for at least a couple of hours. This means that with temperatures way above freezing and more sunshine, we are looking at the potential of a little bit more melting. Now, scanning across other parts of Central Oregon, look at that Pine Mountain camera, a gorgeous sunset, but also the Klein Buttes camera focusing on either an ag burn or a pile burn, but we're coupling these burns, these pile burns and ag burns with the wood fire stoves that are being used to heat some of the houses, and we actually have a lot of particulates being put into the atmosphere right now. On top of that, there's this broad ridge of high pressure, and this high pressure is bringing what highs typically bring to their affected areas, and that's the 3 S's. We have sunshine. We are looking at very little in the way of cloud cover, but also there's stability, no vertical motion, not much in the way of development, and there is subsidence. And subsidence is actually in this case leading to a 4th S, which is stagnation across Central Oregon. And so because of that, the National Weather Service and the Oregon DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, have issued a series of air stagnation advisories and air quality alerts. One of those air quality alerts is for the entirety of Deschutes County, and that air stagnation advisory is just south of our area. Another one comes in from the north. Look, here's what's happening first. Some pockets of fog are going to be possible. There's a dense fog advisory on this side of the Cascades, and there is even a freezing fog advisory around the greater Medford area. But when we look closer at what's happening in Central Oregon, we do have this air quality alert and the air stagnation advisory, so periods of reduced air quality expected. Periods of poor air quality possible. And here's where we're sitting right now, just looking at 2 different networks. The airnow.gov, or I should say the DEQ, courtesy of airnow.gov, has good air quality. This is your hourly average, and this is actually showing very good conditions across Central Oregon. Now, the eSpace monitoring network is one from eSpace Labs, and it's a small business right here in Bend, Oregon, and they have a series of these sensors all across Central Oregon. One of them is showing unhealthy air quality conditions in Madras. Outside of that, they're mostly sitting in the green. Now, there's one more network that we have access to. I typically don't show it on air. This is the purple air network. The reason I don't use it a lot is because these dots are just too small to see on air, but this one's a little more sensitive than the other one. So we have good to moderate air quality across Central Oregon. A couple pile burns out there where you see some of those flames, and there are a handful of sensors. I count 3 right now, and that 3 of these sensors are showing reduced or poor air quality. There's one more in Prineville that's unhealthy for sensitive groups. So through tonight, what's going to happen is temperatures are getting cold. We're still into this ridge of high pressure. The subsidence associated with high pressure is pretty much the atmosphere pushing down to the surface. And as it does that, we get air stagnation. Air stagnation pretty much means that the air is not moving around. It's not circulating much. And this is where we're looking at the potential of some of these pollution, the particulate matter, actually like bottling up close to the surface and really stacking up, and we could actually be looking at times of poor air quality. And that's pretty much what we're looking at through the next couple of days. The biggest change and the only downside to this gorgeous weather outside of the fact that we need more snow. So when we look across the high desert, there is snow in the ditch at Lava Butte, and outside of that we have dry conditions. It's going to remain dry across Central Oregon, and even in the passes there has been a little bit of melting. We're looking at the potential of a little bit of a refreeze overnight where some of that snow has been melting. So some slick roads through the passes, and that's about it. Satellite and radar shows some thin cloud cover over the region, but there's no precipitation in sight for Central Oregon. When we look at the bigger picture, the closest precipitation is at the tail end of a warm front. This tail end of the warm front, that is coming into Washington, bringing a few showers, but it's not rolling this way. And we were just looking at visible and infrared blend for satellite with a radar also thrown on it. So we're taking 2 of those off just using infrared satellite imagery. And on top of that, we also have the pressure gradients, or I should say the isobars, which show us what the pressure gradients are. So right now over Central Oregon, we have a very loose pressure gradient. It's not steep at all, and so that means we mostly have a light breeze. Now earlier today it was breezy at times. There are some spots where we have a little bit of vertical development in our cloud cover, but just not much coming our way. So we have these light clouds over Central Oregon, firmly under the influence of a broad ridge of high pressure over the East Pacific Ocean. Now, there is a low pressure that's past developing, and it's actually an active low pressure system out over the Pacific Ocean with a warm front that's stretched all the way east and into BC, into Vancouver Island, into Washington. And that right there, my friends, is an atmospheric river of moisture, and that's just going to continue to bring wave after wave of moisture into Canada and into Washington. But because of our ridge of high pressure, we're staying on the dry side of all this, so we're not expecting much in the way of influence from that active weather pattern. In fact, we have very dry air in South Central Oregon, dry air over Central Oregon, and a little bit of mid-level moisture when we look at water vapor imagery, but just not enough to actually bring much at all, if anything, in the way of precipitation. In fact, through the next couple of days, we stay dry. Periods or areas of fog are going to be expected tonight and tomorrow night, most of it in the valley where we have that dense fog advisory. And even through Tuesday, tons of sunshine, no precipitation in sight, and we are just staying very dry. So relative humidity, 30s and 20s for many of us. There are some 50s and 60s out there, so there are some spots with moderate humidity, but for most of us it's just extremely dry. And in the last 24 hours, pardon me, let's try that one again. I hit a wrong button, sorry. So in the last 24 hours, temperatures mostly topped out in the mid to upper 50s with a few 40s on the map. Now the forecast had mid to upper 50s with a few 60s on the map. And by tomorrow, we're actually going to be reaching into the 60s for some parts of the high desert. Meanwhile, temperatures right now already getting on the chilly side. We're sitting in the 40s with some 50s out there. And hour by hour, it's going to get even cooler. So at the moment, we're running between 4 degrees warmer and close to where we were just 24 hours ago. So tonight, we're falling back out of the 40s into the 30s. Many of us bottom out into the 20s with some 30s still possible overnight. By tomorrow, That's when temperatures are really going to start to pick up during the midday hours, getting into the afternoon, and we're topping out in the 50s with some 60s. So that puts us back above average for this time of the year. Above normal temperatures, we're even going to call that pleasant, under tons of sunshine with some clouds, and highs 50s with a few 60s. By Wednesday, 50s and 60s expected. Still tons of sunshine, still a little bit of cloud cover, and Thursday brings with it a dip in temperatures, but it's mostly just because our high pressure is flattening and moving to the east, not because of cold fronts rolling in. So we're still going to be dry. In fact, through Thursday at 11 p.m., no precipitation in sight. Instead, what we're going to have is another dip in temperatures, knocking us closer to average for this time of the year. By the time we get to Friday and Saturday, it'll be chilly, but still above that average high of 44 degrees. So our forecast model keeps this high pressure over the region, and as it stays there, we have the potential for some AM fog. Outside of that, tons of sunshine, a little bit of cloud cover, no precipitation in sight, and the weather pattern is just being driven by this ridge of high pressure. That was the forecast model I use on air. This one is the GFS, the extended forecast model, and it's also showing that this high pressure just remains anchored over the region, continuing to bring us tons of sunshine and mild temperatures. Just no rain anywhere near our state. So between now and 5 p.m. on Sunday, still dry. Now when it comes to winds, it's been a light breeze. It's been picking up at times. We'll call it about 5 to 15 miles per hour. And through the day, we did get breezy at times tonight, back down to a light breeze. Tomorrow, not too bad. Mostly about 5 to 15 miles per hour till we hit Wednesday. Then we're 2 to 10 miles per hour. So for tonight, expect 30s with a few 20s out there. By tomorrow, we're topping out in the 50s with a few 60s possible. This is where we're reaching closer to near record highs. The record high in Redmond is 62, set back in 1983. The record high in Bend is 60, set back in 91. So we're getting close, just not quite there. And then by Thursday, we get a shift in the weather pattern where temperatures are starting to fall. They're getting back through the 50s and into the 40s. So mid to upper 40s, some 50s Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and no precipitation at all. That is it. Here's a quick look at your weather headlines for this Monday, January the 12th. It's going to be sunny, stagnant, and dry. We have that risk of poor air quality at times. Unseasonably warm days are expected with frosty starts and winds getting breezy at times. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecasts. I will see you tonight at 5 o'clock on ABC and CBS for a half hour. Then at 6 on ABC and CBS, 7 o'clock. Also, as but we have a game tonight, and that game is, I believe, on ABC. And so after the game, we're going to be on at 8, and then again at 11. So we will see y'all then. But for now, that is it. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News.